It's back to masks. With cases of the COVID-19 Delta variant spiking among unvaccinated New Mexicans, the governor has ordered all of us, vaccinated or not, to mask up. The governor's latest public health order also has vaccination requirements for some healthcare workers and school staff. Here to offer some thoughts about the order and the reaction to it is our line opinion panel from the Carlsbad Current, Argus, and the USA Today network of newspapers in Southeast New Mexico. News director and editor Jessica Onsuris returns. Good to see you, Jessica. Returning in line, regular Sophie Martin is back on our Zoom room. And as former New Mexico House Minority Whip, he's right there, Dan Foley, another regular face on our panel. Now, Jessica, let's get going here. The southeast part of the state is home to some of the lowest vaccination rates, as we all know, and not coincidentally, some of the fastest growing case counts for COVID-19 in New Mexico. What's the reaction to the governor's mandate?
We don't like it, and we likely won't do it.
Wow.
Which seems to be we've in southern New Mexico since the beginning of this pandemic have been very vocal about the mandates that have come from Santa Fe to protect. Well, I mean, for everybody's good, right? These things are to protect us and to protect the communities that we live in and the rest of the state, to protect our businesses and our economy. But we still feel that it's a bit of an infringement if you ask most people around here. But you are talking about a conservative part of the state that has some pretty big already issues with Santa Fe and the governor and Democratic politics.
That's all right, that happens. You're a busy newswoman.
Apologies.
That's all right.
So, when we likely expected we had expected that there would be stronger mandates coming. And when you're asking somebody to just wear a face mask indoors, if you're asking a parent to put a mask on their child as they head to school, you'll likely get some pushback in southern New Mexico. But I think for the most part, local officials at the county and the city level and school officials have said that they will abide by these new mandates.
Interesting point. Sophie, I'm interested in your opinion on this. It's not a popular opinion, decision by the governor, no doubt about that. But it's not a surprise either. Is it fair to say this was a predictable decision?
I think given the rising rates and the news that we've seen nationwide and locally about the Delta variant and COVID, and I think not just how quickly it spreads amongst unvaccinated individuals, but also the fact that it appears to spread pretty quickly amongst vaccinated individuals as well, although for the most part with different impacts in terms of their health for vaccinated folks. No, I don't think it's a real surprise. And most of what I'm seeing is kind of a resignation. It seemed like this was probably coming, something like this. What may be a little bit more surprising to people, though, are the variety of mandates relating to vaccines. Right. I think that is probably where we're going to see more pushback in the courts. I'm not a betting woman, but so far it seems to me that the mandates regarding vaccines that have come out across the country and in New Mexico have been pretty carefully tailored to cover those groups that state government, at least in our case, that state government does have some authority over. And so I suspect that those mandates may survive court challenges, but I also expect those challenges are to come.
Interesting points there. Hey, Daniel, the governor also implemented a hard and fast vaccine mandate for some hospital workers and those in, congregate care facilities like nursing homes. And there are a few exceptions and a tight timeline. Do you expect most providers to abide, meaning, we've gone through this lap once, and now providers, they got pretty beat up the first lap around. Is it going to be a different attitude this time?
Yeah, I think there's a difference between what the providers are going to do and what the employees are going to want to do. And, I think you may get a lot of buy-in from businesses that say, okay, maybe we should do this. I'm not sure you're going to get a lot of buy-in from, at this time, if you haven't been vaccinated by now, I'm not sure there's much that's going to energize someone to go get vaccinated. I mean, the holdouts seem to be people that don't believe they should get vaccinated. And, quite honestly, the handling of this thing so far just keeps leading these people to have more and more trepidation towards doing this, right? I mean, we were told get the vaccination, then we get the vaccination, then you're told this, now you're part of all the mandates, even though you are vaccinated. Now they're telling you got to get another booster shot potentially if you've been vaccinated. The message has just been horrific. And so I think that not only are you going to continue to get pushback from the folks who refused it, I could tell you from a a lot of people I know who were early on vaccinated, folks who have not been ones that have been like, oh, this is a conspiracy. It's, this is the way somebody's trying to take over the world. There's a lot of people now that I've talked to that are like, yeah, something's wrong here. This is just not right. And so I just think that you're going to see a more growing sentiment, and I'm not sure the answer.
Dan, let me ask you this, though, too. Is there a risk? I mean, I'm seeing on Facebook a lot of folks, the providers, are saying they're going to leave the state. People who work in hospitals are saying, I got a lot of options, either direction, all three directions out of here across the state line.
I mean, we have a tough time attracting healthcare workers, especially specialists. I mean, you start talking about, look for a pediatric neurologist in New Mexico, ain't happening. You're not getting it.
I hear that, but on mask use, is that enough to drive someone out of the state?
I think that mask use in conjunction with the consistent barrage in people's minds of an erosion of their freedom and not getting a straight answer is, I think, something that's going to cause people, especially for us, when you can go left or right from New Mexico and go to a state that's definitely not in the same movement as New Mexico is. And, you start looking at this southeastern part of the state, you can live in Carlsbad or you can live in Lubbock. There's a 50-minute difference between the two, and one of them changes the outcomes and what you're allowed to do. I think it's going to affect places like that dramatically.
I got to swing back to Jessica on that note for sure. First of all, on a personal note, are you comfortable where you live without seeing people all unmasked like that?
You're talking about for as big as Carlsbad is and as for an important role at Southeast New Mexico plays in the state, you're talking about a relatively small community where people talk to each other and know each other and consider each other family and friends and colleagues. I can say on a personal level, I am comfortable back at work. I'm comfortable among my family. I am comfortable among my community, but that's because I'm among people that I know and whose situations I understand and who have been, for the most part, very accommodating when it comes to doing what's required to keep each other safe, right? So we are talking about a very rural community as well. So we have families within this community who do, as Dan said, right? Their response to all of this is, we don't believe you. We don't trust what you're telling us about why it's important we do these things, and we're just not going to comply.
Sophie, the big one I'm hearing a lot of chatter is you got to have a mask to get in the state fair. And a lot of folks there's a big one.
Well, it's not just a mask, right?
And vaccinated. That's right.
Right. Vaccine or recent negative test. It's funny, just as a side note, I haven't heard much in New Mexico, and maybe I've just missed it, about the fact that you can now get one-off at-home vaccine tests through drugstores, through Amazon, et cetera. And so it is not just you have to drive through the state fairgrounds to I think you actually can't do anymore.
How's that going to go down? How's that going to go down at the gate?
They're not very good, though. I mean, the ratio, a friend of mine has to do them for his work, and they're wrong more than they're right.
That's not actually quite correct, but no, they're not as good as some of the other tests. But the advantage is, not that I'm selling these, but the advantage is that you get an answer while you're still at home. But I think the state fair is one of those examples of, the governor believes that she has the power over state-sponsored activities and is going to use that. What we have seen in some cases is that when, for people, it becomes more inconvenient not to have the vaccine than to have the vaccine, and if they don't have a strong ideological reason for not getting it, they'll go ahead and get it. And so we do see some of that. One thing that I think is really interesting that Dan brought up just a moment ago is this issue of the booster.
Yes.
So I was speaking to a pharmacist in another state the other day, and he said, we're checking really carefully to make sure you really qualify for a booster. And I checked on the state's website, New Mexico's website today. If you haven't already told them that you have one of those pre-existing conditions, they won't sign you up for a third shot at this point.
Oh, wow.
We know that over 1 million people have already gone ahead and somehow finagled, or, in certain cases, have gotten their doctors okay to get a booster shot. But there does appear to be quite a bit of demand around that, around that third shot.
Interesting points.
Gene, I think before you go, I think it's also important to say too that we're having this conversation about people not wanting to get vaccinated at the very same time that both of our U.S. senators said that to come into this country, you don't have to be vaccinated, you don't get to be tested, but yet New Mexico citizens, we're going to send down a mandate that says you can't do things to be tested and you have to be tested. That's the kind of message that people are saying, hold on a second. If we've got this run on the border and you're letting people in that they don't have to be vaccinated and they don't have to be tested, but you're telling me that I have to be vaccinated, I have to be tested before I can go to school, before I can go to my job, before I can go out to dinner. That's, I think, the kind of message that is consistently dividing people in the state that are saying enough's enough.
Good last note there. More to come on this front in the weeks and months ahead. Now, we'll have to leave it there. We're on the crime beat when the line returns.